Hey guys, Bruce here. So I wanted to just do a kind of a shorter video today, and this is on gluing PVC together, how to make joints that'll last for the life of your aquarium. Obviously, you know, gluing PVC is not that complicated of a process, but there are a few little tips and tricks that make things work better. I've seen plenty of joints that you know, end up leaking, even seeping a little bit of water. You get that salt creep around the joint, and that's just really frustrating and annoying, and you want to avoid that. I also like to leave things looking as good as possible. I've done a lot of commercial maintenance, and with that, you know, when you leave that job, you got to be sure that your joints are not going to leak, because you know we could be talking about thousands of gallons of water. So you know, if you just pay a little bit more attention to detail, select the proper tools, the proper equipment to do the job, then you're going to be fine. So first thing I wanted to show you is when you're selecting the PVC, you'll notice that there's a Schedule 20, a Schedule 40, a Schedule 80, and obviously this has nothing to do with time or calendars. The schedule of a pipe is how thick it is, how its rating is for pressure. Now, Schedule 20, it'll work, but you know, honestly, PVC over time does break down, and I've seen this Schedule 20 pipe, you know, on older aquariums. You know, I'm looking at something maybe 15 years old, 10 years old, and it gets brittle and it starts to crack. So I would completely avoid using Schedule 20. That's just my opinion. And you know, this is from what I've seen in the industry. So Schedule 20, just get it out of your, you know, just chuck that. Schedule 40 is what I'll use for most builds, unless it's something you know, pretty, you know, like a larger industrial type system. And if you're using Schedule 80, this video probably isn't going to have a whole lot of you know, benefit to you anyway. So Schedule 40, this will put up with tons of pressure. It's going to be fine for any of your home aquarium projects. I don't know if you can see the thickness of the pipe or not there, but that's typically what I'll use. Sometimes on some of the fittings, I do like the Schedule 80 a little bit better on the unions, well, a little bit stronger. So you know, that's something to consider. On bigger tanks, I'll also go with the Schedule 80 bulkheads. But for the most part, the Schedule 40 is just fine. So we've got our pipe here, and obviously we're going to need to cut the pipe to the size that we need. So these are a pair of really inexpensive basic cutters, and I just kind of keep these around the house for when I need a pair around the house. I have some nicer ones that I take with me on service calls, and you know, really these inexpensive ones are just fine. So you want to make a nice straight cut. You want to get that as straight as possible, and these cutters are going to help you do that. So you get the pipe cut to the size that you need, and then you're going to notice, whether you're cutting that with a saw or whatever, that there's a little bit of a ridge here or some inconsistency on the edge. So you know, a tool like this or a utility knife to kind of trim some of that off and make that nice and smooth. This one, they call it a deburring tool, I believe. Obviously I picked this one up quite a while ago, but it's done great, and it just kind of puts a nice little taper on there, so that we're going to fit nice and smooth inside of our, in this case, you know, our coupler there. So, next we're going to select our glue. Now, there's a bunch of different things out there, and if you're new, it might seem a little bit like, yeah, what do I want to use? Well, on almost everything, I get the heavy-duty clear cement, the clear cleaner, and the clear primer. Now, the purple primer is typically what you're going to find at your big box stores. at least around this area, to get the clear primer, I had to go to more of a specialty store, but I think it's worth it. If you're working on something, you know, that is going to have an inspection, like you're home building or construction or whatever, you're probably going to want to go with the purple primer, because an inspector may come in there and look at that. But that's, with aquariums, that's just irrelevant. But that's one reason why the primer is purple. It's just colored. It's no different than the clear. The cleaner, don't get it confused with the primer. It's not a primer. The cleaner is there to remove any kind of solvents, you know, dirt or anything like that from the pipe. You know, to do a really good job, it's good to use all three: the cleaner, the primer, and the glue. And I should also mention, if you are new to this, the glue, we're not gluing these pieces together, we're fusing them together. The glue helps break down the PVC and binds it together, so you get a really strong joint. Now, you can see how that cleaner is actually removing, you know, it's removing that lettering. And that's going to make our job look a lot cleaner. So we're going to go over this really quick. Now we know that this is nice and clean. And clean the inside of our coupler there. Then we're going to move on to the primer. Now the primer is going to start the melting process. It's going to start breaking down the pipe. And don't be afraid to go over this a few times. You want to go nice and even movements like this, circling the pipe. You don't need a lot of pressure, just a tiny bit of pressure. Go over the inside of your new piece there. Do your coupling. Now the glue. Same thing with the glue. What I've found is I've seen sometimes people just kind of slop it on there, but if you're going to go with nice, even, you know, kind of a nice, even amount of glue there, and you're going over it and over it and over it a few times, it's going to start the melting process, and it's going to ensure that you haven't missed any area on that pipe. There's nowhere that's going to leak now. And then you put it in there. If you can, twist it a couple times. And then I like to use a damp rag or paper towel to get any of the excess off. And then we've got a nice nice joint there. When this dries up, you're not going to, you know, it's going to look nice and clean. Now let's do this whole thing here again with the purple primer, the colored glue. So we're going to clean this up, get all the dirt off, any kind of oils from your fingers, solvents. Now the primer, you can see that going on there. Nice even amount. Don't be afraid of using too much. I actually bought this this glue here. I was doing some sprinkler repair for myself, and I didn't care about how it looked, just about the functionality, because it was you know, something that was just going to get buried anyway. There again, going over this a few times, nice and smooth. We're getting that pipe softened up. It's starting to melt. Push that together. May not want to wear your Sunday best while you're working with PVC because it is messy. Even that clear stuff is messy. So now you can see, the clear, it's going to leave a nice clean glue joint. It's just as solid as this. The only difference here is, yeah, you can see where it's been glued. If an inspector wanted to look at that, they could say, yeah, we've used primer here. Aesthetically, if it doesn't matter to you, then it's not worth taking the extra time to go acquire the clear primer and all that. But I think a lot more people are paying more attention to what's underneath the aquarium. They're spending more money on colored plumbing, fancy sumps, things like that, and I think it's pretty cool actually. But it's just good to know that these products are out there. The clear primer was harder to track down, just so you know. It's a little bit, the big box stores usually have this clear cleaner, but the clear primer, it might be a special order thing from a big box store. Any kind of plumbing specialty place should have it in stock, so you don't have to order that off the internet. Another tip, when you're closing your glue up, cinch it down with some channel locks. If you just get it hand tight, it's a lot more apt to evaporate, and that just turns into a big waste of money. So now you've got a good solid glue joint that is going to last the life of your aquarium. There's no reason why this won't last, 20 years without any kind of incident at all. Hopefully you found some benefit to this. Later on I plan on going over more plumbing tips, plumbing basics, things like that. I've got a lot of other topics I want to cover, and I'd really love to hear from you guys, see what you'd be interested in. If you could follow me on Instagram, I'm on there as vital_reef. Facebook, Bruce Ewald. On YouTube, Bruce Ewald. That's BruceEwald. Thank you so much for your time and for watching. And I definitely, any comments you'd leave for me, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you.